For 27 years, storage unit C-17 was never opened. Every single month, someone paid the rent. The problem? The owner had officially died in 1998. When the payments suddenly stopped, the storage company finally cut the lock. Detectives expected old furniture. Instead, they found evidence from a murder that had never officially existed. Here's what happened. In the quiet town of Bozeman, Montana, a small self-storage facility had over 600 units. Most tenants came and went. One never did. Unit C-17. According to company records, the renter was Richard Lawson, declared dead in 1998 after a boating accident. Yet, every month, the rent arrived, always on time, always in cash. Nobody questioned it until 2025, when the payments suddenly stopped. Tom Reynolds had managed the storage facility for nearly 30 years. He remembered Richard Lawson. "Quiet guy," Tom told Detective Emma Carter. "Always organized, never missed a payment." Emma frowned. "Then who paid after he died?" Tom shook his head. "No idea. The cash always arrived in plain white envelopes. No return address, no fingerprints, no notes." Emma looked at the payment records. Every envelope had been mailed from a different town, but always on the first Monday of the month. For 27 years. With no payments for 3 consecutive months, the company finally received legal permission to auction Unit C-17. Before the auction, Detective Emma requested to inspect it. Tom cut the old padlock. The heavy metal door slowly rolled upward. Dust filled the air. Inside, there was almost nothing. One wooden chair, an old metal filing cabinet, 3 sealed cardboard boxes, and a faded red toolbox. No furniture, no family belongings. It looked less like storage and more like someone had carefully preserved a secret. The first box contained old engineering maps. The second held dozens of photographs. Every picture showed Richard Lawson. But he wasn't alone. Standing beside him in nearly every photo was another man. His younger brother, Mark Lawson. Emma searched public records. Mark had reported Richard missing in 1998. He had inherited nearly everything after Richard was declared legally dead. Yet one detail stood out. Mark had never once mentioned the existence of storage unit C-17. Emma opened the old metal filing cabinet. Inside sat dozens of neatly labeled folders. Each one contained copies of bank statements, insurance documents, property records, and handwritten notes. Everything stopped with one folder. Its label simply read, "If something happens to me." Emma slowly opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter addressed to the police. The first sentence made everyone in the room fall silent. "If you're reading this, my brother already knows I'm dead." Emma carefully unfolded the letter. The handwriting matched Richard Lawson's signature from company records. It read, "If you're reading this, my brother already knows I'm dead. If I disappear, don't look for a boating accident. Look at the land we surveyed together." Emma immediately asked for every survey project Richard had worked on during his final year. One address appeared again and again. A remote piece of ranch land 20 miles outside Bozeman. Today, it belonged to Mark Lawson. Detectives obtained a search warrant. The property looked ordinary: an aging farmhouse, a large red barn, several acres of open land. Nothing seemed suspicious until a forensic investigator noticed something unusual. One section of ground behind the barn had sunk slightly over the years. The soil composition didn't match the surrounding area. Ground-penetrating radar was brought in. The scan revealed a large underground void, exactly where Richard's old survey maps had marked abandoned mining tunnels decades earlier. Excavation crews opened the entrance. The tunnel had been deliberately sealed with fresh concrete many years earlier. Inside, detectives found old construction equipment, rusted tools, and a waterproof metal case. Everyone expected cash. Instead, the case contained dozens of original property deeds, financial ledgers, bank records, and one VHS videotape labeled simply March 18th, 1998. Emma stared at it. This is the day Richard disappeared. The tape was carefully restored at the State Crime Laboratory. The footage wasn't dramatic. It showed Richard standing alone in a small office, looking directly into the camera. Calm, tired. He said only one sentence: "If my brother reports me missing, don't believe the accident." The recording ended. No explanation, no names, just silence. For the first time in 27 years, Detective Emma Carter realized this wasn't a missing person case. It had always been a planned murder investigation, waiting for someone to find it. Detective Emma reopened Richard Lawson's case from the beginning. The official file stated that Richard had drowned during a boating trip on March 18, 1998. But something didn't match. There had never been a body, only an empty boat drifting across the lake. The accident had been accepted because Richard's younger brother, Mark Lawson, identified the boat and insisted Richard had gone out alone that morning. Emma ordered the original evidence files. One photograph caught her attention immediately. Richard's pickup truck had been photographed outside the marina, but the timestamp showed it was parked there 9 hours before sunrise. Someone had moved it there long before the supposed accident. Detectives brought Mark Lawson in for questioning. He answered every question calmly. He never asked why he had been arrested. Instead, he asked only one thing: "Did you finally open the storage unit?" Emma didn't answer. She simply placed Richard's handwritten letter on the table. For the first time in the interview, Mark stopped talking. A forensic accountant then uncovered another secret. For 27 years, the monthly cash payments for storage unit C-17 had been purchased using money orders from different post offices across Montana. Security records showed the buyer always wore a hat and sunglasses. But one payment contained a single mistake: a fingerprint. It matched Mark Lawson. The room fell silent. Faced with the evidence, Mark finally confessed. Richard had discovered that Mark had been secretly forging land survey reports to help developers buy valuable property below market price. When Richard threatened to report everything to state investigators, Mark lured him to the abandoned mining tunnel. The confrontation turned violent. Richard was killed. Mark staged the boating accident. Then he kept paying for the storage unit every month. Not to protect his brother's memory, but because he was terrified someone would eventually open it. For 27 years, his own fear became the only thing keeping the evidence hidden. Richard Lawson had planned for one possibility, that someone might one day silence him. So instead of hiding the truth, he hid the evidence where greed would never let his killer look. Inside the very storage unit his killer was too afraid to abandon. Detective Emma later said one sentence stayed with her long after the case was closed. Sometimes the strongest prison isn't made of steel. It's built from guilt. Mark Lawson was sentenced to life in prison. Storage Unit C-17 now sits empty. Its door remains unlocked. Not because there's nothing left inside, but because every secret it held has finally been brought into the light. This has been the Dark Truth Files. This story is entirely fictional, created for entertainment. See you in the next case.